The coffee cup trembled in her hand as she poured, just slightly, but Vincent Russo noticed everything. It was 6:47 on a Tuesday morning, and the Rosewood Diner hummed with the quiet efficiency of the pre-dawn rush. Outside, Chicago was just waking up, streetlights still glowing against the darkness as early workers hurried past frost-covered windows. Vincent sat in his usual corner booth, the one that gave him a clear view of both entrances and the kitchen. It was a habit from years of calculated survival, always knowing who came in, who left, where the exits were. He'd been coming to this diner for 3 months, ever since expanding his legitimate restaurant holdings into the South Loop. The waitress caught his attention from day one. Her name tag read Sophia Martinez. She moved between tables like a ghost, trying not to disturb the living, her dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, her uniform crisp despite the early hour. But it was her eyes that Vincent couldn't stop, noticing the way they darted to the door every few minutes, the way her shoulders tensed whenever someone walked in. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. The way she flinched when the cook shouted her name too sharply. "More coffee, sir?" she asked, her voice soft, almost apologetic for existing. "Please." Vincent watched as she lifted the pot with both hands, steadying it as she poured. That's when her sleeve slipped, just for a second, maybe 2, but it was enough. Dark purple bruises wrapped around her wrist like ugly jewelry, finger-shaped marks that told a story Vincent knew too well. Some were fresh, deep violet against her olive skin. Others had faded to that sickly yellow-green color that meant they were days old, maybe a week. Sophia saw him notice. Her eyes went wide for just a fraction of a second before she yanked her sleeve down, the practiced movement of someone who'd hidden injuries many times before. She clutched the fabric in her fist, pulling it past her knuckles. "Thank you," Vincent said quietly, as if nothing had happened, as if his blood wasn't already starting to simmer with a cold, familiar rage. She nodded once, quickly, and disappeared toward the kitchen, walking faster than necessary, her movements tight and controlled. Vincent set down his coffee without drinking it. His mind was already working, already calculating, already remembering another woman who'd hidden bruises the same way. Maria, his sister, 5 years older than him, the one who'd raised him after their mother died, the one who'd been smart and funny and protective, the one who'd met a charming man at a party and slowly, so slowly that Vincent almost missed it, became a shadow of herself. By the time Vincent had realized what was happening, by the time he'd convinced Maria to leave, it was too late. Her boyfriend came home early, caught her packing, and beat her to death in their bedroom rather than let her walk away. That was 12 years ago. Vincent had been 23, still learning the family business, still believing some problems could be solved through proper channels. He'd learned better since then. He'd learned that sometimes the system failed people, that sometimes justice required methods that existed in gray areas, that sometimes the only way to protect someone was to operate outside the law. He'd made a promise at Maria's grave. Never again would he ignore the signs. Never again would he wait too long to act. Never again would he let someone suffer because he was worried about complications. Vincent pulled out his phone and sent a text to Tony Moretti, his second-in-command and head of security. "Need information on a security guard. Marcus Hayes. Works somewhere in the South Loop. Everything you can find. Quietly." The response came within seconds. "How fast?" "Yesterday." The morning rush picked up around him. Sophia worked her section with mechanical efficiency, refilling coffee, taking orders, delivering plates with that same careful precision. Vincent watched her, the reflection in the window, noting every detail, the way she kept her back to the wall whenever possible, the way she scanned the room constantly, always aware of who was where, the way her smile never quite reached her eyes, a mask she wore for customers but dropped the moment she thought no one was looking. At 7:15, the door chimed and a man walked in. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the build of someone who spent serious time in the gym. His security uniform was crisp, the badge on his chest gleaming, but it was the way Sophia's entire body went rigid that told Vincent everything he needed to know. The man's eyes found her immediately, tracking her movement across the diner with the focused intensity of a predator watching prey. "There's my girl," the man announced to no one in particular, his voice carrying that false warmth that made Vincent's jaw tighten. It was the kind of voice that sounded friendly to strangers but held an undercurrent of threat for those who knew better. Sophia turned slowly, and Vincent saw her face transform. The guarded wariness became something worse, resignation mixed with fear, carefully masked behind a smile that looked like it hurt to produce. The man crossed the diner in 3 long strides and wrapped his arm around Sophia's waist. From Vincent's angle, he could see the grip was too tight, fingers digging into her side hard enough to make her wince. She tried to subtly pull away. The man's grip only tightened. "Getting off soon, baby?" The man spoke loudly enough for half the diner to hear, a public display of ownership. "I'll wait outside. We need to talk about yesterday." The way he said talk made it clear that talking wasn't what he had in mind. It was a threat wrapped in casual words, the kind of threat only Sophia would fully understand. "Okay, Marcus," Sophia said quietly, her voice smaller than Vincent had ever heard it. "I finish at 7:30. "Good girl." Marcus leaned in, kissing her temple in a display of affection that felt more like marking territory. His hand slid lower on her waist, possessive. "Don't make me wait." He left as abruptly as he'd arrived, the bell above the door chiming cheerfully behind him, a sound that felt obscene given what had just happened. The moment he was gone, Sophia's shoulders dropped half an inch, like a puppet whose strings had been cut. She stood there for a moment, eyes closed, breathing carefully. Then she straightened, pulled her mask back into place, and returned to work as if nothing had happened. Vincent pulled out his phone again and typed a message to Tony. "Marcus Hayes, security guard. That's him. I want everything." He finished his coffee, watching through the window as Marcus stood by his car, arms crossed, staring at the diner entrance, waiting, watching, making sure Sophia knew he was there. When Sophia brought Vincent's check at 7:25, her sleeve was pulled down past her knuckles now, clutched tight in her fist. "Thank you for coming in," she said. The same thing she probably said to every customer. The same practiced politeness. Vincent placed $200 bills on the table along with his business card. The card was simple, just his name and a phone number. No business title, no address, nothing that would raise questions. "Keep the change," he said. Then, quieter, meeting her eyes directly for the first time. "If you ever need help, any kind of help, call that number, day or night." Sophia stared at the card like it might explode in her hands. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. "I don't understand." "You don't have to understand right now." Vincent stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "Just keep the card somewhere safe. Somewhere he won't find it." The fact that he didn't have to specify who he was told them both everything. "Why would you?" Sophia's voice was barely a whisper now, her eyes darting toward the window where Marcus waited. "You don't even know me." "No." Vincent agreed, his voice gentle but firm. "But I know the look in your eyes. I've seen it before. And I know what happens when people ignore it." He walked out before she could respond, passing through the early morning sunshine to where his driver waited with the car. Through the diner's window, Vincent saw Sophia pick up the card with trembling fingers, reading it quickly before sliding it into her apron pocket. She glanced toward the door, where Marcus's silhouette was visible waiting by his car, then back at the card in her pocket. Vincent got into his car, the leather seats cold in the October morning. "Office," he told his driver. Then he pulled out his phone and called Tony directly. "Everything," he said when Tony answered. "Marcus Hayes. Employment history, addresses, criminal record, associates, bank accounts, social media, past relationships, everything. And I want surveillance on the Rosewood Diner starting now. I need to know where Sophia Martinez goes, who's following, aid her, what we're dealing with." "Boss," Tony's voice was cautious, the tone of someone who'd worked for Vincent long enough to know when to push back. "Is this business or personal?" Vincent watched through the tinted window as Sophia walked out of the diner. Marcus immediately grabbed her arm, pulling her toward his car with more force than necessary. Even from this distance, Vincent could see her trying to pull away, could see Marcus's grip tighten, could see the resignation in the slump of her shoulders as she stopped resisting. "Both," Vincent said quietly, his voice hard as stone. "It's both." By noon, Vincent had a preliminary report spread across his desk at Russo's, his flagship restaurant in River North. The office was modern, all glass and steel, overlooking the Chicago River. But Vincent wasn't looking at the view. He was looking at the file Tony had compiled. Marcus Hayes, 29 years old, employed by Secure Watch Private Security for the past 4 years. 2 previous domestic violence complaints filed by former girlfriends, both mysteriously dropped when the women refused to testify. Current girlfriend, Sophia Martinez, 27, no criminal record. Dropped out of Northwestern University's nursing program 3 years ago. Vincent read through Sophia's history with growing anger. She'd been an honor student, full scholarship, top of her class in her program. Then Marcus happened. The timeline matched perfectly her academic decline starting 6 months after their relationship began. According to social media posts Tony had pulled. Financial abuse first, Vincent noted, reading how Sophia had maxed out credit cards in her name, how student loans had gone into default, how she'd been forced to withdraw from school when she couldn't pay tuition. Then came the isolation friends and family gradually cut off, her social media going silent, her world shrinking until it contained only Marcus and the diner where she worked. By the time the physical abuse started, documented in 2 emergency room visits that Sophia had claimed were from falling downstairs and walking into a door, she had nowhere to turn. No money, no support system, no way out. She lives with him, Tony reported, standing across from Vincent's desk. Ground floor apartment in Pilsen. No security cameras, bars on the windows. She walks to and from work because she doesn't have a car. He drives a 2023 Challenger, way above his pay grade for a security guard. Drugs? Vincent asked, looking up from the file. Not that we can find, but his bank account shows regular cash deposits that don't match his security guard salary. My guess? He's running something on the side. Maybe private security for illegal operations. Maybe shakedowns. Maybe both. Vincent steepled his fingers, thinking, men like Marcus always had side hustles, always had ways of making money that gave them leverage and connections. What about his employer? SecureWatch is mostly legitimate, but Hayes has friends in the Chicago PD cousins, drinking buddies from his neighborhood. He's got a network. One of his cousins is Detective Michael Hayes, assigned to the domestic violence unit. Of course he was. The irony was bitter. So if Sophia tried to report him, it would go nowhere, Tony finished. His cousin would bury it. We've seen it before. Vincent closed the file and looked out at the Chicago skyline. Somewhere in that sprawling city, Sophia Martinez was probably at home right now, walking on eggshells, trying not to do anything that would set Marcus off, making herself small, invisible, trying to survive another day. I want someone watching that apartment, Vincent said, his decision made. Discreet, professional. I want to know Marcus's schedule, his patterns, when he comes and goes. And I want to know if he hurts her again. Tony was quiet for a moment, and Vincent could feel the unasked question hanging in the air. Finally, his second-in-command spoke carefully. Boss, with all due respect, this girl isn't family. She's not connected to our business. Getting involved in a domestic situation, especially with someone who has cop connections, it's risky. It could bring heat we don't need. I know the risks. Vincent's voice carried an edge that made Tony straighten slightly. Do it anyway. Can I ask why? Vincent thought about Maria, about finding her body, about the promises he'd made that came too late. Because 12 years ago, I didn't act fast enough. Someone died because I hesitated, because I worried about complications, because I told myself it wasn't my business. He met Tony's eyes. I'm not making that mistake again. Tony nodded slowly. He'd been with the Russo family long enough to know about Maria, to understand the weight Vincent carried. I'll put Marco on it. He's good, discreet. Hayes won't know he's being watched. Thank you. After Tony left, Vincent sat alone in his office as afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows. He pulled up Sophia's employee photo from the diner on his computer screen. In the picture, she was smiling, but it was a sad smile, exhausted, like someone who'd forgotten what real happiness felt like. Vincent made a silent promise to that image. I won't let you end up like Maria. I won't be too late this time. Over the next 3 days, Vincent received regular updates that painted an increasingly disturbing picture. Marcus worked night shifts at SecureWatch, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., guarding a corporate office building downtown. He drank heavily most nights after work, usually returning home around 2 in the morning. On his nights off, he sat in front of the television, drinking beer, and watching Sophia with a particular intensity that Marco described as predatory. The first incident after Vincent started surveillance happened on Thursday night. Tony called him at home at 11:45 p.m. Boss, you need to hear this. Hayes came home drunk. They're fighting. Vincent grabbed his laptop, pulling up the audio feed from the directional microphones Marco had positioned outside the apartment. The fight started over something trivial. Sophia had bought the wrong brand of beer. Marcus's voice came through clearly, starting with irritation and escalating to rage in under 30 seconds. You can't do anything right, can you? Stupid bitch. I work all goddamn day and you can't even remember what kind of beer I like? I'm sorry, I thought. Sophia's voice was small, placating. You thought? You don't think. That's your problem. You're too stupid to think. Then came the sound Vincent had been dreading. Flesh hitting flesh. A cry of pain, quickly muffled. Sophia trying not to scream, trying not to give Marcus the satisfaction. Marcus's voice dropped lower, more dangerous. You want to cry? I'll give you something to cry about. Get up. Please, Marcus, I'm sorry. I said get up. More sounds of impact. Sophia. Whimpering. Furniture scraping across the floor. Then silence. The worst kind. The kind that meant someone was being held, restrained, hurt in ways that didn't make noise. Vincent's hands clenched into fists. He forced himself to breathe, to think strategically rather than emotionally. Where is he now? Still in the apartment, Tony replied. Sophia's in the bathroom. Hayes passed out drunk on the couch about 5 minutes ago. She okay? Define okay. She's alive. Can't tell extent of injuries from out here. Vincent closed his laptop. Make sure our people are ready. When she calls, and she will call eventually, I want immediate response. Under 5 minutes from call to arrival. Understood? Understood. But Vincent wondered if Sophia would call. So many women never did. Fear, shame, financial dependence, the belief that things might get better, the terror of what might happen if they tried to leave, all of it conspired to keep them trapped. He'd learned that with Maria. She'd hidden the abuse for 2 years before Vincent finally figured it out. By then, leaving had become almost impossible. Her boyfriend had isolated her completely, controlled all her money, monitored her every movement. When Vincent had finally convinced her to make a plan to escape, when she'd finally agreed to leave while her boyfriend was at work, he'd come home early. Vincent had received the call from the police at work. By the time he got to the hospital, Maria was already gone. The boyfriend had beaten her to death with his fists and was claiming self-defense, saying she'd attacked him first. He'd served 4 years for manslaughter, 4 years for taking Maria's life. Vincent had made sure the man never hurt anyone else. Not by killing him, that would have been too easy, too quick. No. Vincent had made sure that everywhere the man went, Vincent's people were watching. Made sure every potential employer received an anonymous tip about his violence. Made sure he lived in constant awareness that one wrong move, one raised voice to another woman, would have consequences the courts hadn't delivered. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was something. Vincent wasn't going to let Sophia become another Maria. He wasn't going to be too late again. Friday morning arrived cold and gray. The kind of October day that promised winter wasn't far behind. Vincent sat in his usual booth at the Rosewood Diner, watching Sophia move between tables with the same careful precision as before. But there was something different today, a slight hitch in her movement, the way she favored her left side. Bruised ribs, Vincent thought, recognizing the signs. When Sophia came to refill his coffee, he could see the makeup didn't quite cover the bruise on her cheekbone. She'd tried, layering on foundation and concealer, but the swelling was still visible in the right light. Her left eye was slightly puffy, like she'd taken a hit there too. Morning, she said softly, not quite meeting his eyes. Morning. Vincent waited until she'd poured the coffee, until her hands were steady enough to set down the pot. Sophia. She froze at the sound of her name coming from his lips. They'd never spoken beyond the transactional pleasantries of server and customer. Yes, sir? Do you still have my card? Her hand went unconsciously to her apron pocket, a tell that confirmed what he needed to know. Yes. Good. Keep it close. He let that sink in for a moment. And Sophia? The offer stands. Day or night, anytime. You just have to make the call. She finally looked at him then, really looked at him, and Vincent saw the war playing out behind her eyes. Fear of what Marcus would do if he found out. Hope that maybe, just maybe, there was a way out. Suspicion about what this stranger might want in return. Desperation born from 3 years of living in hell. Who are you? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Vincent chose his words carefully. Someone who keeps his promises. Someone who's seen what happens when people wait too long to ask for help. I don't understand what you want from me. I don't want anything from you, Sophia. I want something for you. I want you to be safe. Her eyes filled with tears that she blinked back rapidly, glancing toward the kitchen to make sure no one was watching this conversation. You don't know anything about my life. I know enough. I know someone's hurting you. I know you think there's no way out. I know you're terrified that if you ask for help, it'll only make things worse. Vincent leaned forward slightly, his voice gentle but firm. I know because I've seen this before. My sister was in a relationship with a man who hurt her. By the time I understood how bad it was, by the time I convinced her to leave, it was too late. He killed her rather than let her go. Sophia's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes going wide. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. So when I see someone hiding bruises, when I see that look in someone's eyes, I don't ignore it anymore. I don't wait. I don't hope it'll get better on its own. His voice carried the weight of old grief and new determination. I act, and I'm very good at what I do. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Marcus will kill me if he finds out I'm talking to you. If he thinks... She stopped, too scared to even finish the thought. But they both knew what she meant. If Marcus thought she was interested in another man, if he believed she was planning to leave, the violence would escalate exponentially. He won't find out, not unless you want him to. Everything I do can be as discreet or as visible as you need it to be. Vincent held her gaze. But you have to make the choice, Sophia. I can open doors for you, but you have to walk through them. I need to get back to work, she said finally, her voice shaking. The cook was calling orders, and other customers needed attention. Of course, but Sophia? Vincent waited until she met his eyes again. You don't have to live like this. That's not an opinion. It's a fact. There are options. When you're ready to explore them, you know how to reach me. She nodded once, quickly, and disappeared toward the kitchen, moving faster than her bruised ribs probably appreciated. Vincent finished his coffee and left his usual generous tip. As he walked out, he noticed Marcus's car wasn't in its usual spot across the street. Instead, there was a different car, a gray sedan with a man inside watching the diner. Vincent memorized the license plate and texted it to Tony. Who's this? The response came 5 minutes later. Kevin Price, works with Hayes at Secure Watch. They're tight. Been watching the diner for about 40 minutes, so Marcus had assigned a watcher. He was tracking Sophia even when he wasn't physically present, making sure she knew there was no escape, that eyes were always on her. It was a psychological warfare tactic, designed to break down any thoughts of independence or resistance. And it was working. Vincent could see it in Sophia's hunched shoulders, in her constant scanning of the room, in the way she'd flinched when he'd said her name. Vincent got into his car and immediately called Frank Russo, his uncle, and the family's longtime consigliere. Frank had been advising the Russo family for 30 years, keeping them out of federal prison more times than anyone could count. Frank, I need you to look into Secure Watch private security. Ownership, contracts, any connections to law enforcement or city officials. I want to know who they're tied to and what leverage points exist. Frank was silent for a moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of experience. This about the Waitress? News traveled fast in their organization. This is about making sure I have all the information I need to make good decisions. Vincent. Frank's voice took on the tone of an elder speaking to someone he cared about. Domestic situations are messy. Unpredictable. The kind of thing that can blow back in ways you don't anticipate. They're personal, and personal makes people sloppy. I'm aware of the risks. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, this looks emotional. And emotional decisions have a way of turning into problems we can't solve. Frank paused. What's the endgame here? You scare the boyfriend away? He'll come back with friends. You hurt him? The heat will be incredible. You kill him? That's a war with law enforcement we can't win. I'm not planning to kill him. I'm planning to remove him as a threat through legal channels. Documentation, evidence, making sure the system actually works for once. Vincent's voice was calm, measured. I'm doing this the right way, Frank. There is no right way to get between a man and a woman he thinks he owns. These situations always spiral. Always. I've seen it too many times. Then help me make sure this one doesn't spiral. Get me the information on Secure Watch. Help me understand what we're dealing with. Vincent softened his tone, slightly. I'm not being reckless. I'm being strategic. But I am doing this, with your help or without it. Frank sighed heavily. You're as stubborn as your father. All right, I'll get you the information. But Vincent, be careful. Men who beat women don't just let them walk away. And this Hayes character has cop connections. If this goes sideways, if he ends up dead or seriously hurt, we're all going to pay the price. I understand, and I'll be careful. But Frank, I won't let another woman end up like Maria. Not when I can prevent it. After hanging up, Vincent returned to his office and spent the afternoon building a strategy. This wasn't just about extracting Sophia from a dangerous situation. It was about ensuring Marcus Hayes faced real consequences, the kind that would prevent him from hurting anyone else. That meant documentation, evidence, building a case so airtight that even Marcus's cop cousin couldn't bury it. By evening, Vincent had positioned surveillance around Marcus's apartment, the diner, and Secure Watch's office. He'd identified Marcus's known associates, his routine, his vulnerabilities. He'd researched domestic violence laws in Illinois, learned about protective orders and evidence requirements for prosecution. He was preparing for war, but the kind fought with documentation and legal maneuvering rather than violence. Because as much as Vincent wanted to make Marcus disappear permanently, he knew that would only make things worse for Sophia, for his organization, for everyone involved. No, Marcus Hayes needed to be destroyed systematically, methodically, through the very system he thought protected him. And Vincent Russo was very good at systematic destruction. At 3:47 p.m., on the 5th day of surveillance, Vincent's phone rang. Unknown number. His pulse quickened as he answered. "Mr. Russo?" Sophia's voice was shaking, barely holding together. "I'm sorry to bother you, I didn't know who else to call." Vincent was already standing, already grabbing his jacket. "You're not bothering me. What happened?" "Marcus found your card. He was going through my apron while I was in the shower. He's furious. He thinks I'm having an affair, that I'm trying to leave him." Her voice broke. "He's been drinking since he got home, and he's saying things about what he's going to do when he gets back from his shift tonight. Terrible things. I'm scared, Mr. Russo. I'm really scared. Where are you right now?" "At the apartment. He left for his shift about 10 minutes ago, but he could come back. Sometimes he does that. Comes back early to try to catch me doing something wrong." Vincent's mind was already racing through logistics, timing, what needed to happen, and in what order. "Sophia, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Can you do that?" "Yes." Her voice was small but determined. "Pack a bag. Just essentials. Whatever you can grab in 5 minutes. Clothes, documents, medications, anything irreplaceable. Can you do that?" "I can't just leave. He'll find me. He always finds me." The panic was rising in her voice. Years of conditioning telling her escape was impossible. "He won't find you. I promise you, he won't find you. But you need to trust me right now. Can you do that?" Silence on the other end. Vincent could hear her ragged breathing, could imagine the war playing out in her head. Fear versus hope. The devil she knew versus the uncertainty of the unknown. "Sophia, I need an answer. Are you ready to walk out that door?" More silence. Then so quietly he almost didn't hear it. "Yes. God help me, yes." "Good. Pack the bag. I'll have someone there in 4 minutes. A woman named Angela. She drives a black SUV. She'll take you somewhere safe. Somewhere Marcus will never find you." "What about when he realizes I'm gone? What about—" "Let me worry about Marcus. You just worry about getting yourself to safety. 4 minutes, Sophia. Start packing." Vincent ended the call and immediately dialed Angela Santos. She answered on the first ring. "I need you to make a pickup," Vincent said, already pulling up the address on his computer. "Pilsen, ground floor apartment." He rattled off Sophia's address. "Her name is Sophia Martinez. She's scared, probably second-guessing herself already. Get her out of there and bring her to the safe house on Ashland, the one we keep for emergencies." "On my way," Angela replied without hesitation. She'd done extractions before, knew the drill. Next call was to Tony. "Where's Marcus Hayes right now?" "Just started his shift at Secure Watch. Got there 12 minutes ago." "Good. Keep eyes on him. If he moves before his shift ends, I want to know immediately." Vincent paced his office, checking his watch. 3 minutes since he'd hung up with Sophia. Angela would be there in 1 more minute. Would Sophia have everything packed? Would she freeze up at the last moment, too afraid to actually walk out the door? His phone rang again. "Sophia, I can't do this," she said, panic clear in her voice. "I'm looking around this apartment and I can't. Where will I go? How will I survive? I don't have money. I don't have family here. I have nothing. Marcus was right. I'm nothing without him." "Sophia, stop." Vincent's voice cut through her spiral with calm authority. "Listen to me. You have more than you think. You have courage, or you wouldn't have called. You have strength, or you wouldn't have survived this long. And right now, you have me. I'm asking you to trust me for just 24 hours. 24 hours. If after that you want to go back, I'll drive you back myself. But give yourself a chance at something different. Give yourself permission to imagine a life without fear. Why are you doing this? The question came out as half sob, half plea for understanding. Because I've seen this story before and I couldn't change the ending then, Vincent answered honestly. But I can now, if you'll let me. Because you deserve better than what you're living with. And because I can help, which means I should. He heard a vehicle pull up outside, saw through the security feeds Tony had patched to his computer that Angela had arrived right on time. There's a black SUV outside right now. That's Angela. She's going to take care of you. You just need to walk out that door. Okay, Sophia whispered. Then stronger. Okay, I'm doing this. You're doing the right thing. Vincent stayed on the line, listening as Sophia grabbed what she could, the sounds of drawers opening, clothes being stuffed into a bag, the jingle of keys. He heard her pause at the door, heard her take a deep breath. I'm walking out, she said, and Vincent could hear the door opening, could hear her footsteps on the concrete outside the apartment. I'm really doing this. You're doing great. Angela's getting out of the SUV now. She's the woman in the black jacket. He heard Angela's gentle voice introducing herself, heard Sophia's quiet response, heard the SUV door close and the engine start. Only then did Vincent allow himself to exhale, releasing the tension he'd been holding. We're moving, Angela confirmed over the phone. She's shaking, but she's okay. Should be at the safe house in 20 minutes. Thank you, Angela. Stay with her until I get there. Vincent ended the call and stood at his window, looking out at the Chicago River below, at the city where somewhere Marcus Hayes was working his security shift, unaware that his carefully constructed cage had just opened. When Marcus got home tonight and found Sophia gone, his rage would be volcanic. He would tear the apartment apart looking for clues. He would call everyone he knew. He would use every resource at his disposal to find her, and Vincent would be ready. He pulled out his phone and texted Frank. It started. Make sure everything's in place. The response came immediately. Already done. But Vincent? Be ready. This is going to get ugly. I'm counting on it. Because here's what men like Marcus never understood. Violence wasn't the only form of power. In fact, it often wasn't even the most effective form. Sometimes the most devastating thing you could do to someone wasn't to hurt them physically. It was to take away everything that made them feel powerful, to strip away their control piece by piece, to leave them exposed and helpless in front of everyone they knew. Marcus Hayes had built his sense of self on domination, on the ability to terrorize someone into submission, on the belief that his connections and his badge and his fists made him untouchable. Vincent Russo was about to teach him a very different lesson about power. The safe house on Ashland was exactly what it sounded like, a 2-bedroom condo in a modern building with excellent security. All of it registered to one of Vincent's many shell companies. Angela had stocked it with food, toiletries, and clothes in various sizes specifically for situations like this. When Vincent arrived 90 minutes later, he found Sophia sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm apartment, staring at nothing. The bag she'd packed sat at her feet, still zipped. She looked smaller than she had at the diner, like leaving the apartment had somehow diminished her. Sophia, he said gently, settling into the chair across from her rather than beside her, giving her space. How are you doing? She let out a laugh that held absolutely no humor. I just walked out on a man who's going to kill me when he finds me. How do you think I'm doing? Scared. Uncertain. Maybe already regretting it. Probably wondering if I'm just going to be another person who hurts you. Vincent kept his voice calm, measured. All of that is normal. Expected, even. You must think I'm pathetic. Weak. Stupid for staying as long as I did. I think you're one of the bravest people I've ever met. It takes more courage to walk out than it does to stay. Most people never. Manage it. Vincent leaned forward slightly. Sophia, you survived 3 years with someone who systematically tried to destroy you. You're still here. Still standing. Still capable of recognizing that you deserve better. There's nothing pathetic about that. Her eyes filled with tears. He's going to find me. You don't understand. He has connections. He has friends in the police. I know about his cousin, Detective Michael Hayes. I know about his friends at the 11th District. I know about Danny Corso and the illegal poker games where Marcus works security. I know about the cash deposits in his bank account that don't match his salary. Vincent watched understanding dawn in her eyes. Sophia, I don't do anything halfway. When I told you I could help, I meant it. I've been preparing for this for days." Her eyes widened in shock. "Days? How long have you been watching?" "Since the first morning I noticed the bruises. Since I saw the fear in your eyes when Marcus walked into the diner." Vincent's voice was gentle but honest. "I needed to understand what we were dealing with before I could develop a plan to extract you safely." Sophia processed this, wrapping the blanket tighter around herself. I don't know whether to be grateful or terrified that you have that kind of capability. Both are valid responses. But right now the important thing is that you're safe. This apartment is yours for as long as you need it. The building has 24/7 security, and I've added private surveillance around the perimeter. Marcus doesn't know this place exists, and even if he somehow found out about it, he couldn't get to you here. He'll go to the diner. He'll question people, threaten them. The diner's owner is an old friend of mine. As of 2 hours ago, there's a story that you quit this morning and moved back to California to take care of a sick relative. Your boss will confirm it, the other waitresses will confirm it. And there's actually a paper trail being created right now to support it. Flight records, a work visa application in Sacramento, even a new phone number with a California area code that goes to voicemail. Sophia stared at him with something between awe and confusion. "Who are you? Really?" Vincent chose his words carefully, knowing this was a crucial moment. "I'm someone with resources. Someone who believes in protecting people who can't protect themselves. Someone who operates in areas that exist between legal and illegal, right and wrong." He met her eyes directly. "I'm not a cop, Sophia. I'm not a social worker or a domestic violence counselor. I run restaurants, legitimate businesses, but I also have connections and capabilities that come from a complicated family history." "Are you Mafia?" The question came out blunt, direct. That's a very old-fashioned word. Let's just say I operate in gray areas sometimes. I know people who know people. I have resources that aren't always obtained through traditional means. He kept his gaze steady. "But I want you to understand something crucial. I don't hurt innocent people. I don't hurt women. I don't traffic in the kinds of things that destroy lives. And I don't let people like Marcus Hayes operate without consequences." Sophia was quiet for a long time, processing this information. Finally, she spoke, her voice small. "He's going to lose his mind when he gets home and I'm gone." "Yes, he will. What if he comes after you? Once he figures out you helped me, then he'll have made a very serious mistake. Let me worry about Marcus. You focus on yourself right now. Getting rest, starting to heal, figuring out what you want your life to look like." Vincent stood, preparing to give her space. "There's a phone on the counter, prepaid and untraceable. My number's programmed in, along with Angela's and a few others you might need. Food in the kitchen, clothes in the main bedroom closet, everything you need for now." "Vincent?" Sophia, and stopped him at the door, using his first name for the first time. "Thank you. I don't know how to properly thank you, but thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is just the beginning. The hard part is still ahead." After he left, Vincent sat in his car for a moment, checking his watch. 11:17 p.m. Marcus's shift would end in about 40 minutes. He'd head home to an empty apartment. He'd realize Sophia was gone, and then the real work would begin. Vincent pulled out his phone and called Tony. "Hayes is about to discover she's gone. I want full surveillance audio and video. I want to hear every word he says, see every person he contacts. This is evidence gathering now. Everything gets documented." "Understood. We're ready." At 11:52 p.m., Vincent's phone lit up with an alert. Marcus had left work early, driving erratically according to the team following him. Vincent was in his penthouse office, watching the security feeds Tony had patched through. He saw Marcus's car screech to a stop outside the apartment building, saw him practically running to the door. Through the audio feed from the bugs Tony's team had planted, Vincent heard the crash of the door being thrown open, heard Marcus shouting Sophia's name. I heard the moment when silence fell, as he realized she was gone. Then the destruction began. Glass shattered. Furniture crashed. Marcus was tearing through the apartment, punching holes in walls, throwing everything he could find. His voice escalated from anger to rage to something primal and terrifying. "Where the fuck are you, Sophia?" More crashing. The sounds of systematic destruction as Marcus demolished his own living space in fury. Then, suddenly, an eerie quiet. Vincent could hear Marcus's heavy breathing through the microphones. "You think you can leave me?" Marcus's voice was different now, cold and calculating in a way that was somehow worse than the rage. "You think you can just walk away?" "I'll find you, Sophia. I'll find you. And when I do, you're going to wish you never left. You're going to beg me to take you back. You're going to understand that you're mine. That you'll always be mine." Vincent listened as Marcus made a phone call. "Mike?" "Yeah, it's Marcus. I need a favor. Sophia's gone. I need you to run her name. Check if she's been to any shelters, hospitals, filed any police reports. She might try to get a restraining order." A pause. "No, man, she's just confused. You know how she gets sometimes. Anxious, paranoid. I just want to make sure she's safe." Detective Michael Hayes, using his badge to hunt down his cousin's victim. Exactly as Vincent had predicted. "Boss," Tony said quietly through Vincent's phone. "He's going to use every resource he has to find her. I know. Let him try. He won't find anything." Vincent's voice was cold, satisfied. "Every search he runs will hit dead ends. Every lead will go nowhere. And every illegal use of police resources will be documented for the federal prosecutors who are going to be very interested in Detective Hayes' activities." Over the next 3 days, Vincent watched Marcus spiral through the surveillance footage. The man was unraveling, becoming more erratic, more desperate. He called the Rosewood Diner 14 times, showed up in person twice to shout at the manager about Sophia's sudden departure. He went to her former roommate's building, banging on doors and demanding information. He filed a missing persons report that his cousin quietly fast-tracked, painting Sophia as mentally unstable and himself as a concerned boyfriend. He posted on social media about his troubled girlfriend who needed help, carefully crafting an image of a caring partner rather than an abuser. It was a masterclass in manipulation, and it would have worked if Vincent hadn't already anticipated every single move. His cousin is running database searches, Tony reported on day 4, checking hospitals, shelters, police reports across 3 states, looking for any mention of Sophia Martinez, and finding nothing, Vincent replied with satisfaction, because Sophia Martinez had effectively disappeared from every system Marcus could access. Meanwhile, at the safe house, Sophia was beginning the slow, painful process of healing. Angela had connected her with Dr. Sarah Chen, a therapist who specialized in trauma recovery and domestic violence. Vincent had arranged for all medical care to be confidential and paid for through his network. Dr. Chen worked with Sophia daily, helping her understand that the abuse wasn't her fault, that Marcus's violence was his choice, not her failure. They talked about trauma responses, about how years of living in survival mode had rewired Sophia's brain, about the long road ahead toward healing. On the 5th day, Vincent visited Sophia again. She looked different already, still fragile, still carrying visible wounds, but with a hint of color returning to her cheeks. The constant hypervigilance had started to ease slightly. "I keep waiting for him to break down that door," Sophia admitted, sitting on the couch with tea in her hands. "Every loud noise, every siren, every time someone walks past in the hallway, I think it's him. That's completely normal. Your nervous system has been in survival mode for 3 years. It takes time to recalibrate, to learn that you're actually safe now." Vincent settled into the chair across from her. "Doctor, Chen is good, one of the best. She'll help you work through the trauma responses. She's helping me understand that none of this was my fault. I mean, I know that intellectually, but believing it emotionally is different." Sophia took a sip of tea, her hands steadier than they'd been days ago. "She's also helping me understand that I need to rebuild my sense of self, my identity separate from being Marcus's victim. That's important work. The most important work, actually." Sophia was quiet for a moment, studying Vincent's face. "Marcus filed a missing persons report. Angela showed me the report online. He's telling everyone I'm mentally unstable, that he's worried about me, making himself look like the concerned boyfriend instead of the abuser. Classic abuser tactic. Control the narrative, paint the victim as unstable or vindictive. It's textbook manipulation. His cousin is a detective. He's using police resources to try to find me. That's illegal, isn't it? Very illegal. And it's all being documented." Vincent pulled out his phone and showed her a file. "Every database search Detective Hayes runs, every illegal use of his badge to hunt you down, every phone call between him and Marcus, we're recording all of it. When this is over, Detective Hayes is going to be facing his own set of federal charges." Sophia's eyes widened as she scrolled through the documentation. "You're building a case. Against both of them. Against Marcus, definitely. Against Detective Hayes if necessary. against anyone, who tries to help Marcus find you or harm you. Vincent took back his phone. But I want to be very clear about something, Sophia. This isn't about revenge. This is about ensuring your safety and making sure Marcus faces real consequences that prevent him from hurting anyone else. He won't stop looking for me. I know him. He'll never let this go. You're probably right. Which is why we're going to make sure that when he finally does something that crosses the line from searching to stalking, from concern to threat, we have everything documented to bury him in a legal hole so deep he never sees daylight again. Vincent leaned forward. Men like Marcus need to feel in control. When they lose that control, they escalate. They make mistakes, and we're going to be there to document every single one. Over the next week, Sophia began to find her footing. She started taking online courses to work toward finishing her nursing degree. She video chatted with her mother in California, beginning the slow process of rebuilding that relationship after years of isolation. She attended group therapy sessions at a domestic violence center, connecting with other survivors. And slowly, carefully, she and Vincent developed a friendship built on trust and mutual respect, rather than crisis and desperation. They talked for hours about everything: Sophia's dreams of becoming a nurse, Vincent's complicated relationship with his family business, their shared love of old movies and good Italian food. Vincent showed her the parts of himself that existed beyond the protective enforcer. And Sophia revealed pieces of the woman she'd been before Marcus, the woman she was learning to become again. I want to do something meaningful when this is over, Sophia told him during one of their evening conversations. I want to help other women the way you helped me. Create something that fills the gaps in the system. What are you thinking? A center. Not just a shelter, but a comprehensive support system. Legal aid, therapy, job training, housing assistance, everything a woman needs to actually escape and rebuild her life. A one-stop place where she can get all the help she needs without having to navigate a dozen different agencies. Sophia's eyes lit up as she described her vision. Somewhere she's treated with dignity, where she's believed, where she's given real resources instead of just a bed for a few nights. Vincent listened, seeing the passion return to her voice, the spark that Marcus had tried so hard to extinguish. That's an excellent vision. Have you thought about what it would take to make it real? Money, obviously. Property. Licensed therapists. Lawyers willing to work pro bono or reduced rates. Partnerships with job training programs. Sophia counted on her fingers. It seems impossible, but it's not impossible. It's very doable with the right backing. Vincent pulled out his phone and started making notes. I know property developers. I know. Lawyers who owe me favors. I have connections to therapy networks and job training programs. We could make this happen. Just like that. Just like that. Just like that. You've seen firsthand where the system fails. You know what's needed better than any policymaker or nonprofit director who's never lived it. Your experience gives you insight that's invaluable. Vincent met her eyes. When this situation with Marcus is resolved, when you're ready, we'll start building it. The Sophia Martinez Center for Survivors Who Fall Through the Cracks. Tears welled in Sophia's eyes. You'd really help me do that? I'd be honored to help you do that. After he left that evening, Sophia sat alone in the safe house, feeling something shift inside her. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was planning for a future, imagining a life beyond fear, seeing herself as more than a victim. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. 2 weeks after Sophia's extraction, Marcus made his first major mistake. Vincent was reviewing restaurant financials when Tony burst into his office, tablet in hand. Boss, you need to see this. Hayes just tried to plant something at Russo's flagship. Vincent took the tablet, watching the security footage. At 2:47 a.m., Marcus approached the restaurant's rear entrance wearing dark clothing and a baseball cap. In his hand was a small package. What is it? Vincent asked, his voice deadly calm. Explosives. Small amount, probably wouldn't have destroyed the building, but enough to cause significant damage and send a very clear message. Tony pulled up another angle. Our night security team spotted him before he could plant it. He ran when they called out. Where is he now? Lost him in Greektown. But boss, this is attempted arson at minimum. Maybe terrorism charges, depending on how we want to play it. We've got him on camera. This is serious prison time even his cousin can't make disappear. Vincent watched the footage again, studying Marcus's body language. The man was frantic, sloppy, desperate. This wasn't a calculated move. It was a man at the end of his rope, lashing out. Don't call the police yet, Vincent said. Tony's eyes widened in surprise. What? Boss, this is attempted. I know exactly what it is, and we're not reporting it. Not yet. Why the hell not? This gives us everything we need to put him away. One charge won't be enough. Detective Hayes will find a way to minimize it. Claim Marcus was having a mental health crisis. Get him a psychiatric evaluation and probation instead of prison. Vincent set down the tablet, his mind already working through scenarios. We need more. We need a pattern so clear, so documented, that even his cousin can't explain it away. You want to let him try again? Tony sounded incredulous. I want to give him enough rope to hang himself with. Control the circumstances so he keeps digging his hole deeper while we document everything. Vincent pulled up a map on his computer. From now on, every property of mine gets enhanced security. Cameras everywhere. But we're also going to create what looks like a vulnerable target. A trap. An opportunity for Marcus to reveal exactly how dangerous he is. To commit crimes that even his corrupt cousin can't cover up. Vincent's eyes were cold. And when we're done documenting his pattern of escalation, we hand everything to federal prosecutors who don't care about local police politics. Over the next few days, Vincent carefully repositioned his pieces. Enhanced security at all his legitimate properties. New surveillance systems installed. His people briefed on the situation and told to be ready for anything. But he also spread carefully crafted information through channels he knew Marcus was monitoring rumors about a new restaurant Vincent was opening in Wicker Park, currently under renovation with supposedly minimal security. The perfect target for someone desperate to send a message. At the safe house, Sophia was settling deeper into her new reality. The constant fear had started to fade, replaced by something that felt almost like peace. She could sleep through the night now. She could hear loud noises without immediately panicking. She was slowly learning to feel safe. But she also felt guilty, knowing Vincent was putting himself at risk while she hid. He tried to bomb one of your restaurants, she said during one of their evening calls, her voice tight with concern and guilt. Vincent, this is my fault. He's escalating because of me. Maybe I should just stop right there. Vincent interrupted firmly. This is not your fault. Marcus is escalating because he's a violent criminal who can't handle losing control. That's on him, not you. But people could get hurt because of me. People could get hurt because of Marcus. Not you. Never you. Vincent's voice softened. Sophia, I need you to understand something. Every decision I'm making with full awareness of the remorses, risks, and full willingness to accept the consequences. You didn't ask for this. You didn't cause this. You're not responsible for Marcus's choices. I just feel so helpless. Like I'm hiding while you fight my battles. You're not hiding. You're healing. That's the most important work right now. Vincent paused. And when this is over, when Marcus is locked away where he belongs, you're going to use everything you've learned to help other women. That's not helpless, Sophia. That's strategic. That's playing the long game. They talked for another hour, and by the end, Sophia felt slightly better. Dr. Chen had been teaching her about cognitive distortions, about how trauma made victims feel responsible for their abusers' actions. It was a hard lesson to internalize, but she was trying. On day 17, Marcus took the bait. Vincent received a text from Frank at 9:30 p.m. Your trap worked. Hayes is at the Wicker Park site, armed. Vincent was in his car within minutes, heading toward the construction site while coordinating with Tony and his security team. But he'd also made another call to Detective Sarah Chen, head of the Chicago PD's domestic violence unit, and someone Vincent had carefully cultivated as an ally over the years. There's a situation developing, Vincent told her. Marcus Hayes, the man who's been terrorizing Sophia Martinez, is about to commit several felonies. Armed trespass, attempted arson, possibly attempted murder. I need someone from CPD I can trust to be there when it goes down. Vincent, if this is a setup, it's not a setup. It's Marcus Hayes making bad decisions while being thoroughly documented. But I need someone honest there to make the arrest, someone his cousin can't influence. Vincent's voice was urgent. Sarah, you know what happens when cases like this go through corrupt channels. They disappear. Marcus walks free. He hurt Sophia or some other woman. Please. There was a long pause. Then, give me the address. I'm coming with backup, I trust. But Vincent? This better be clean. As clean as it can be when we're dealing with a violent stalker. At 11:30 p.m., Marcus approached the renovation site in Wicker Park. The building was dark except for a single light in what looked like a temporary office. A chain-link fence surrounded the property with a gate that appeared locked but actually wasn't left deliberately accessible. Marcus checked his surroundings, saw no obvious security, and slipped through the gate. What he didn't see were the 6 men positioned around the perimeter, the dozen cameras capturing his every move, or Vincent himself watching from a vehicle across the street. Marcus made his way to the office, gun visible in his hand now. He kicked open the door, finding a small space with a desk, file cabinets, and construction plans spread across a work table. Looking for something? Vincent's voice came from behind him. Marcus spun around, bringing his gun up. Vincent stood in the doorway, hands visible and empty, completely calm, despite having a weapon pointed at him. "Where is she?" Marcus demanded, his voice shaking with rage and desperation. "Safe. Somewhere you'll never find her. Tell me where she is, or I swear to God." "You'll what? Shoot me?" Vincent took a step forward, deliberate and controlled. "Then you'll definitely never find her. And you'll spend the rest of your life in prison for murder. Is that really what you want? You took her from me. She's mine." Marcus's voice broke on the last word, a man whose entire identity was crumbling. "She's not property, Marcus. She's a human being who made a choice. She chose to leave you. That's not me taking her. That's her recognizing that she deserves better than being someone's punching bag. She wouldn't have left on her own. You manipulated her, turned her against me. I gave her an option she didn't know existed. She made the choice herself." Vincent's voice was hard now. "That should tell you everything you need to know about your relationship. When given a choice between staying with you and walking into the unknown with a stranger, she chose the stranger. Think about what that means." Marcus's hand was shaking, the gun wavering between pointing at Vincent and pointing at the floor. "I loved her. I gave her everything. You terrorized her. You isolated her from everyone who cared about her. You destroyed her financially so she'd be dependent on you. You beat her whenever she didn't perform to your impossible standards." Vincent's voice carried the weight of documented truth. "That's not love, Marcus. That's ownership. And you don't own her anymore. I'll find her. Even if I have to go through you, I'll find her. Then do it. Pull that trigger." Vincent gestured to the gun. "But understand what happens next. The moment you fire that weapon, 6 men who are currently surrounding this building will move in. You'll be arrested for attempted murder, for the bombing, attempt at my restaurant 2 weeks ago, for stalking, for illegal weapons possession, for conspiracy to commit kidnapping. I have documentation of everything you've done for the past 3 weeks. Evidence that even your cousin, Detective Hayes, can't bury." Marcus's eyes widened in shock. "You've been watching me? Every second since Sophia left. Every threat you made, every law you broke, every person you tried to recruit for your little revenge mission. It's all documented, all recorded, all ready to be handed over to federal prosecutors who don't care about your local connections." Vincent pulled out his phone and played an audio file. Marcus's own voice came through clearly. "I'll find her, and when I do, I'm going to make sure she never leaves again. She's going to pay for what she did to me, and anyone who helped her is going to pay too." Marcus's face went pale, finally understanding the trap he'd walked into. "That's from 3 days ago," Vincent said calmly. "Want to hear more? I have hours of recordings. Financial records showing you purchased illegal explosives. Surveillance footage of you attempting to bomb my restaurant. Witness statements from people you threatened while trying to find Sophia. Your illegal use of police databases through your cousin, which, by the way, is also being investigated by Internal Affairs now. This is entrapment. None of this would be admissible. In a criminal trial? Maybe some of it would be excluded, but not all of it. And even if some gets thrown out, there's enough clean evidence to bury you." Vincent took another step forward. "But let's talk about the court of public opinion. When all of this leaks to the media, and it will leak when your employer sees it, when the federal investigators already looking into police corruption in Chicago see it, when Sophia testifies about 3 years of documented abuse, your life is over. The question isn't whether you're going down. The question is how hard you're going to fall. What do you want?" Marcus's gun hand dropped slightly, the fight draining out of him. "I want you to understand that you lost. Sophia is gone. She's safe. She's healing. And she's building a life that doesn't include you in any capacity." Vincent's voice was firm but not cruel. "You have 2 choices right now. Drop that gun, turn yourself in, face the consequences of your actions like a man, or pull that trigger and let the dominoes fall. But either way, this ends tonight." For a long moment, Marcus stood frozen, the gun wavering in his hand. Through the windows, he could see shadows moving Vincent's security team, positioning for whatever happened next. "She was everything to me," Marcus said, his voice breaking completely now. "I don't know who I am without her." "That's something you should have thought about before you put your hands on her, before you made her afraid to exist in her own life." Vincent's voice carried a hint of something that might have been sympathy, but only a hint. "You need help, Marcus. Real help. Professional help. But you're not going to get it by stalking Sophia, by threatening me, by trying to blow up buildings. You're only going to get prison time and a lifetime of regret." Marcus's shoulders sagged. The gun dropped to his side, all the fight suddenly gone. "I can't go to prison. My life will be over. Your life as you knew it is already over. Prison is just making it official." Vincent gestured toward the door. "Chicago PD is outside. Federal agents too. They've been listening to this whole conversation, recording everything. You're going to put down that gun, walk out that door with your hands up, and surrender peacefully. Do that, and maybe the prosecutors will consider that you're clearly having a mental health crisis. Maybe you get treatment instead of maximum security. But that's the best offer you're going to get. And if I don't, then my men come through that door, this ends violently, and you lose any chance at leniency. Your choice, Marcus. But choose fast." Marcus looked at the gun in his hand, then at Vincent, then at the shadows visible through the windows. The reality of his situation finally, fully sinking in. She really won't come back? Even if I get help? Even if I change? No, she won't. And you need to accept that. The best thing you can do for Sophia now is leave her alone completely. Let her heal. Let her move on. Let her build a life without fear. Marcus set the gun on the floor and kicked it toward Vincent. "I accept it." The door burst open immediately. Chicago PD flooded in, weapons drawn, shouting commands. They took Marcus to the ground, cuffing him efficiently while reading him his rights. Detective Sarah Chen entered last, surveying the scene with a professional eye. She looked at Vincent, a question in her expression. "That was risky," she said quietly once Marcus had been led away. "Meeting him alone like that. I wasn't alone. And besides, I needed him to. Confess on record. Needed it all documented." Vincent handed her a USB drive. "That has everything. 3 weeks of surveillance on Marcus Hayes. His threats, the attempted bombing, his illegal weapons purchases, his conspiracy to kidnap Sophia. Everything. It's all there." Sarah took the drive, studying Vincent's face with the shrewd assessment of someone who'd been a cop for 20 years. "Why are you really doing this? Most people in your position would have just handled this differently, more permanently. Because the justice system should work, even for people like Sophia who fall through the cracks. Because women deserve protection under the law, not just in the shadows where people like me operate." Vincent met her eyes steadily. "And because maybe if someone had done this for my sister 12 years ago, she'd still be alive." Sarah's expression softened slightly. "I heard about Maria. I'm sorry. Make sure Marcus goes away for a long time. Make sure he gets the psychiatric help he needs but also faces real consequences. That's how you can help. With this evidence?" Sarah held up the USB drive. "He's looking at 10 to 15 years minimum. Multiple felonies, all documented. And his cousin can't touch this case. It's already been escalated to a federal task force due to the explosives charges and the interstate aspects." Vincent felt a weight lift from his shoulders. "Good. That's what I needed to hear." As the police cars drove away with Marcus in custody, Vincent stood in the street watching the taillights disappear into the Chicago night. Tony approached from the shadows, materializing like he always did. "It's done," Tony said simply. "Almost. We need to make sure the prosecution doesn't try for plea deals, that Marcus doesn't get out early on some technicality." Vincent pulled out his phone. "But yes, the main threat is contained." He called Sophia immediately. She answered on the first ring, clearly having been awake and anxious. "Vincent, what? Happened? Are you okay?" "I'm fine. And it's over, Sophia. Marcus is in custody. He's facing federal charges that will put him away for at least a decade. Probably longer." Silence on the other end. Then a sound that might have been a sob or a laugh, or both the sound of someone whose entire world had just shifted. "It's really over?" Her voice was small, disbelieving. "It's really over. You're free, Sophia. Completely free. Marcus will never touch you again. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to feel." "You don't have to know. Just breathe." Just exist. Just start imagining what you want your future to look like. Vincent's voice was warm, gentle. We'll figure out the rest together. Can I see you? I know it's late, but I need to see that you're really okay. That this is really real. I'll be there in 20 minutes. When Vincent arrived at the safe house, Sophia opened the door before he could knock. She looked at him for a long moment, her eyes scanning him as if checking for injuries, confirming he was really there and really safe. Then she threw her arms around him, hugging him with surprising strength for someone so small. "You're okay," she said against his shoulder, her voice muffled. "You're really okay. I'm okay." Vincent hugged her back, feeling the tension in her body slowly start to release. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for believing me, for protecting me, for making me believe I deserved better, for giving me my life back. You always deserved better. You just needed to believe it." They stood like that for a long moment, two people who'd found each other in the darkest of circumstances, holding on to something that had grown beyond crisis into genuine connection. When Sophia pulled back, her eyes were wet, but she was smiling, really smiling, for the first time since Vincent had met her. "What happens now?" she asked. "With us, I mean." Vincent cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing away a tear. "Now we take it slow. We let you heal properly, independently. We see if what we feel for each other survives when there's no crisis driving us together. We build something real if that's what we both want. And if I already know what I want, then we still take it slow." Vincent smiled. "Because you deserve to make decisions from a place of strength and clarity, not from trauma and gratitude. You deserve to choose me because you want to, not because I saved you." Sophia nodded, understanding the wisdom in his words even if part of her wanted to rush forward. "You're right, Doctor. Chen says the same thing. I need to find myself again before I can be part of a healthy relationship." "Exactly. But Sophia?" Vincent made sure she was looking at him. "Taking it slow doesn't mean I'm going anywhere. It doesn't mean my feelings aren't real. It just means we're doing this right." They spent the next few hours talking about everything and nothing, the relief of Marcus being in custody, Sophia's plans to return to nursing school, Vincent's legitimate business ventures, the advocacy center they would build together. By the time Vincent left as dawn was breaking, Sophia felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. Real, tangible hope for a future that belonged to her. Marcus's trial took place 6 months later. The courthouse was packed with media, domestic violence advocates, and survivors who'd followed the case closely. Marcus sat at the defense table looking diminished. Nothing like the threatening figure who'd terrorized Sophia for years. His defense attorney tried every tactic painting Sophia as mentally unstable, suggesting she'd fabricated or exaggerated the abuse, claiming Marcus was the real victim of a vindictive ex-girlfriend and her wealthy new benefactor. But the prosecution had too much evidence. Medical records documenting injuries, photos taken by ER nurses, surveillance footage of Marcus's stalking and threats. The recordings from his attempted revenge on Vincent. Financial records showing his purchase of illegal explosives. Witness testimony from neighbors who'd heard the violence. And most damaging of all, Sophia herself. She took the stand wearing a simple blue dress, her hair pulled back, her posture straight and strong. She testified clearly and calmly about 3 years of escalating abuse, about the systematic isolation and financial control, about living in constant fear. The defense attorney tried to rattle her, to make her contradict herself, to paint her as emotional or unstable. Sophia didn't break. She answered every question with calm precision, her voice steady even when describing the worst moments. "Miss Martinez," the prosecutor asked during redirect, "why did you stay as long as you did?" "Because he'd systematically removed every resource I had to leave. No money, no support system, no belief that anyone would help me. By the time I understood how dangerous he was, I also understood that leaving might be more dangerous than staying. Women are most likely to be killed when they try to leave their abusers. I was terrified that if I tried to escape and failed, he would kill me. What changed? Someone noticed. Someone believed me. Someone offered help without judgment and with real resources." Sophia's eyes found Vincent in the courtroom. "Someone showed me that escape was possible, that I deserved better, that there were people willing to fight for me when I couldn't fight for myself." The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours before returning with guilty verdicts on all counts. Domestic violence, stalking, attempted arson, illegal weapons possession, attempted kidnapping, and conspiracy. The judge sentenced Marcus to 15 years in federal prison without possibility of parole before serving at least 10. Mr. Hayes, the judge said, her voice hard with contempt, you represent everything wrong with men who believe they own their partners. You used your physical and strength and your connections to terrorize a woman for years. You refused to accept that she had the right to leave you, and when she finally escaped, you escalated to violence that could have killed innocent people. Marcus sat with his head down, the reality of his situation finally, fully sinking in. 15 years is not enough for what you've done, the judge continued, but it's what the law allows. I hope you use that time to develop some understanding of human empathy, to recognize that other people have autonomy that you don't get to override. Court dismissed. Outside the courthouse, Sophia stood with Vincent, surrounded by reporters and cameras. Miss Martinez, how do you feel about the verdict? Relieved. Grateful that the system worked this time, though I know it doesn't work for everyone. She looked directly at the cameras. If you're in an abusive relationship, if you're afraid, if you think there's no way out, please know that there is. There are people who will help, resources that exist. You deserve to live without fear, and escape is possible. What's next for you? I'm finishing my nursing degree at Northwestern. I'm running the Sophia Martinez Center for Domestic Violence Survivors, and hopefully helping other women find the strength to leave, the resources to rebuild, and the belief that they deserve better. And what about Mr. Russo? A reporter gestured to Vincent. There's been speculation about your relationship. Vincent stepped forward, his presence immediately commanding attention. Miss Martinez and I are together, yes, but that's irrelevant to her story. The focus should be on her courage, on the systematic changes needed to help abuse victims, on the failures in our system that allow men like Marcus Hayes to terrorize women for years before facing consequences. That's what deserves your attention, not who she's dating. As they walked away from the courthouse, Sophia leaned into Vincent. Thank you for that, for redirecting the attention away from us. Your story isn't about me. It's about you surviving, healing, and using that experience to help others. That's what matters. 1 year later, Sophia graduated from Northwestern's nursing program with honors. Vincent sat in the audience watching her walk across the stage, remembering the frightened waitress hiding bruises under long sleeves. She was unrecognizable now, confident, glowing, fully herself in a way that radiated strength. That evening, Vincent took her to their spot by the river, the same place where they'd shared so many important conversations over the past year. I have something for you, he said, pulling out a small velvet box. Sophia's breath caught. Vincent, I know we said we'd take things slow, and we have a whole year of building something real, something that exists independent of the crisis that brought us together. He opened the box, revealing a simple diamond ring. Sophia Martinez, you are the strongest, most compassionate, most incredible person I've ever met. You've changed my life in ways I can't even articulate. You've shown me that protecting people isn't just about power and resources. It's about believing in their strength even when they can't see it themselves. And I want to spend the rest of my life watching you change the world, supporting your dreams, and loving you exactly as you are. Tears streamed down Sophia's face. I know you've done incredible work healing, finding yourself, becoming independent, Vincent continued. And I need you to know that this proposal isn't about possession or control or anything that resembles what you survived with Marcus. This is me asking if you want to build a life together as equal partners, if you want to take this connection we've grown and make it permanent, but only if that's truly what you want, with no pressure and no expectation. Yes, Sophia said without hesitation, her voice strong and clear. Yes, I want to marry you, not because you saved me, but because you showed me what real love looks like. Because you've supported my independence while being present when I needed you. Because you've never tried to control or diminish me. Because I love you, Vincent Russo, for exactly who you are. Vincent slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her. And in that moment, everything felt right in a way neither of them had imagined possible 2 years ago. 6 months later, they were married in a simple ceremony at the Sophia Martinez Center for Domestic Violence Survivors. The building had opened its doors 3 months earlier in a renovated space in Pilsen, funded by Vincent's foundation and several other donors Sophia had cultivated. The center offered everything she'd envisioned: emergency shelter with secure access, long-term transitional housing, legal aid, comprehensive therapy services, job training and placement, childcare, medical care, all under one roof, all confidential, all free for women escaping abuse. At the wedding, survivors who'd been helped by the center stood alongside Sophia's family, Vincent's associates, medical professionals from Northwestern, and the team who kept the center running. Dr. Chen officiated, her voice warm with emotion as she spoke about witnessing Sophia's transformation. "What makes a love story beautiful isn't the absence of struggle," Dr. Chen said. "It's what people do in the face of that struggle. It's choosing to create light instead of letting darkness win." Sophia and Vincent found each other in terrible circumstances, but rather than letting those circumstances define them, they chose to build something meaningful, for themselves and for countless others. When Vincent and Sophia exchanged vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. "I vow to respect your autonomy always," Vincent said, his voice thick with emotion. "To support your dreams while honoring your independence. To celebrate your strength rather than trying to control it. To be your partner in every sense of the word, never your protector or your possession. To love you as you are, in all your complexity, for all of our days." Sophia's vows were equally powerful. "I vow to trust the love between us. To believe that I deserve happiness and partnership without fear. To continue growing and healing, knowing that my journey is supported but not controlled. To use my voice even when it's hard. To remember that you helped me reclaim my life not by controlling it, but by believing in my strength. To love you with the freedom you gave me, not the fear I left behind. To build something beautiful with you from the ashes of my past." When they kissed as husband and wife, the room erupted in applause and cheers. At the reception, survivors approached Sophia one by one, thanking her for showing them that life after abuse was possible, that they could heal and thrive and even find love again. "You gave me hope when I had none," one woman said, clutching Sophia's hands. 6 months ago I came here, thinking my life was over. Now I have a job, an apartment, custody of my kids, and a future. You showed me that was possible." "You did that," Sophia said firmly. "I just opened the door. You had the courage to walk through it and do the hard work of rebuilding. That's all you." As evening wore on, Sophia found herself standing by the window watching the celebration. Vincent came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About how far I've come. About the woman who hid bruises under her sleeves and thought she deserved what was happening to her. About how she'd never believe this is where she'd end up." Sophia turned in his arms. "About how grateful I am that you noticed, that you cared, that you showed me I deserved better. You always deserved better. I just helped you see it. We did this together." Sophia gestured to the room full of people, survivors, celebrating, staff members who'd dedicated themselves to the center's mission, donors who'd believed in the vision, medical professionals who'd volunteered their time. "Look at what we built. You built this. I just helped. No, we built it. Together. And we're going to keep building more centers in other cities, more programs, more lives changed. This is just the beginning." They danced their first dance as husband and wife to a song about overcoming adversity and finding hope on the other side. As Sophia looked around the room, she felt overwhelming gratitude wash over her. Not for the abuse, never that, but for the strength she'd discovered within herself, for the people who'd believed in her, for the second chance she'd been given, and most of all, for learning that love didn't have to hurt, that it could heal instead, that the right person wouldn't cage you but would give you wings and watch you soar. Vincent held her close, and Sophia thought about all the women who would find refuge in the center that bore her name, about all the lives that would be changed because she'd had the courage to walk away and the support to rebuild. She'd gone from victim to survivor to advocate to wife. She'd reclaimed her education, her career, her sense of self. She'd built something meaningful from pain and trauma, and she'd found love real, healthy love, the kind that elevated rather than diminished, that celebrated strength rather than demanding weakness, that understood freedom was the foundation of any real partnership. As the celebration continued around them, Sophia whispered to Vincent, "Thank you for noticing that scared waitress hiding bruises. Thank you for seeing past the fear to the person underneath. Thank you for believing I was worth saving." "You saved yourself," Vincent replied. "I just opened the door." "Then thank you for opening the door, and for walking through the rest of my life beside me." They kissed as the room cheered. Two people who'd found each other in darkness and chosen to create light together. Not just for themselves, but for every person who walked through the doors of the Sophia Martinez Center looking for hope, the city of Chicago would never be the same. Neither would the countless women who would find refuge and resources in the center. And neither would Vincent Russo or Sophia Martinez, two people who'd learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you could do was notice someone's pain and decide it mattered enough to act. They'd built something beautiful from ashes. A love story, yes, but more than that, a testament to the truth that survival was possible, that justice could prevail even when the system failed, and that one person's courage to escape could inspire thousands to believe they deserved better too. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.